welcome back to the High Value Man Conversation. I'm your host, Erin Alejandrino. We've got a special guest in here today, Mr. Nick Verge. And I don't have your bio, Nick Verge, so you're going to have to do a little freeballing and introduce yourself.
Young guy, 23 years old. I am what I would call a high value man in the making. I have my own version of it. However, there are levels to it, obviously. I think that, everything comes on a scale, and the more that I surround myself with high value men, the more I see my own gap and how I need to improve. But, there's a lot of areas that I figured out very early on in my life, like finances and business. I started running my own business when I was like 17, 18 because I just didn't want to go to college. So I figured I'd just start doing that. So I do copywriting, I do marketing, I help consult with people on that type of side of things. But once I started to see a lot of success in that area, I was kind of like a lobster with one big claw.
I like that analogy. You've used that before. Yeah.
So it's like overcompensated in that one area. And a lot of different experiences like the project and various different conversations I had with people made me see, okay, here's the gap. Because there's some men who are like that lobster, only have that one area of their life figured out. And if I really want to be
for some of our listeners, what would be a example of that overdeveloped lobster claw in one area?
You have a lot of money, but then you're extremely out of shape, or you have a lot of money, and the only reason women are around you is because of your money. You're using that. Like when I started making really good money, I had a very nice car. I had a Porsche 911, and that would be after the date, I would want to drive the girl in the car, and I use that as a way to be able to. This is why you want to have sex with me, is because I'm like, I have money, clearly I'm successful, worked. But at the same time, then you're never really getting girls who are truly interested in you for you. You're getting girls who are interested in the outcome, that perhaps I'll get a bag, perhaps I'll, be able to be taken on vacation or something like that. They don't love you because of you, and it's very different. So that's like one area.
And you shared a term with me that I wanted to go into in this episode a little bit this weekend in regards to guys that buy their way with women. It's simping, right? A simp, not like a pimp. So it's an
simp.
S.
It's like the opposite.
Will you share what a simp is? Because I just heard about it this weekend, and so I'm kind of unfamiliar with that from the dating crowd. But it sounds like what you were describing, this nice car, big overdeveloped claw, and buying your affection is a way to simp.
There are many forms of simping.
Okay.
So that's, I think
Simping ain't easy.
A lot of what it is you want the girl's affection so bad that you'll just do whatever for it. You're needy. Pam is just another version of a simp. So I think really what it is that you see these guys who are buying like girls' OnlyFans accounts and getting access to that, or they're on webcam chat rooms and chatting with a girl. You're simping. You can't get what you want from women without giving them something else. And to a degree, you always have to give something. Like Rachel showed us this message, a guy dedicating himself to being a slave for Rachel. It's a simp action. I need to pay her money to get attention. It's like a very transactional way of getting a female's attention is simping.
I love it. Okay, so you identified your Pam behaviors.
Yeah.
Some things that were holding you back from becoming a high-value man. You call yourself a high-value man in the making.
Yeah.
Your Instagram is...
The Man of Meaning.
The Man of Meaning, and I love that. 23 years old, and this guy is doing very, very well financially. He's developed some high-income skills. He's got some high-net-worth, high-value friends. Yeah. He's got a brotherhood. He's got people he can lean into. He's understood that by having mentors, he can time collapse so many mistakes that so many men make because they don't have community, they don't have brotherhood, they don't have confrontation, they don't have challenge, they don't have the things that really develop a high-value man. You've understood this at a young age.
Yeah.
My head was up my ass at 23. So first off, shout out to you.
Thank you.
But the problem I imagine you're running into is now that you identified this simp problem, the Pam problem at your age, I can't imagine a lot of the women at your age are aware of what it means to be a high value man yet.
No, and this has been part of the issue I've seen with dating girls my age. It's much easier to date girls who are a little bit older, 27, 28. They're a little bit more mature. Whereas what girls at my age are looking for is more so fun and the idea of something serious.
Sugar daddy.
Yeah, well, fun for sure, sugar daddying, but then also just someone to just kind of hook up with and do that type of thing. And, I think there's a time and place for everything, but when a woman sees you as a high value person, they almost get intimidated. And I've had that a lot where girls tell me they're intimidated by me. And it just appears to me, then if I'm intimidating you, you're just not high value. And so I think when I say that, people think that's conceited, like, oh, you're high value. Well, I'm high value, but also that's a frame. It's that there's a lot of context that goes to that. I'm high value for my age range. And on top of that, also, I see a gap. Like, okay, but I know who I want to be when I'm 30, when I'm 40 as well.
So you have a vision
100%.
for Nick Verge. You
100%.
have a vision for your life. You have a vision for what a high value man is. How did you develop that vision, Mr.
Trial
Verge?
and error, for sure. You know, I consumed a lot of personal development material, and that's when I ended up in the world of manifestation and law of attraction and all this stuff. And it talks a lot about having a vision and visualizing the vision. And I started to see how well it worked. And I just started doing it, and I thought, okay, well, I did this with like a high-rise apartment, worked really well. Did it with the car, worked really well with the business, worked really well, the freedom, clients, all that stuff. And I realized I was having a vision for all the external stuff, and that's when it hit me. I need to have a vision for the internal stuff.
Boom.
Yeah. That's what I think a lot of people, they're like, their vision board is all external stuff, and it's not internal at all.
Well, our good friend and mentor, Mr. Wes Watson, he always says that desire points the way.
Yeah.
Desire points the way. So what you want will show you the work you need to do, that will provide you the worth, that will develop your value as a man. And so I think there's nothing wrong with wanting and starting with the external, but what you're saying is you really have to develop that internal vision to become a high value man.
100%. But I think there's also a level where you need to be realistic. So you were telling me there was this guy who wants to have like 3 wives or whatever, 3 girlfriends.
3 girlfriends, yes, yeah.
You know, I think if you just set the vision as, I'm just going to set the vision as this the craziest thing I can possibly conceive of, there's downsides to everything, and you can overdo anything.
Everything comes at a cost.
100%. So what was the guy saying at dinner last night? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We had a server that said absolutely. We counted it 64 times.
64 times at dinner last night. Our server, I don't know if it was a nerve thing or what it was.
Or if he was just messing with us.
Yeah, he could have just been fucking with us the whole time. But he said absolutely at the end and at the beginning, at the middle of every single sentence. Absolutely. How's it absolutely?
Okay, here's actually a really good topic. I think that is a Pam behavior in itself.
Why?
This is what I've started to see. Is you have to be okay with silence in conversation. And this is a problem that I've had to work on for myself, is that a Pam, whenever silence appears in the conversation, he tries to fill that space with more conversation. And this is where you start seeing them say things such as a lot, like things in that category, because they're not okay with just stopping and processing their thoughts and moving at the pace they want to move at. They feel that they need to move at a pace for everyone else, and
too concerned about what other people think.
Yeah, but then you look like an idiot when you do that, though, and you're just consistently stumbling over your own words and everything in that regard.
I love that. So what I hear you say is that silence is golden sometimes.
It can be, yeah. It certainly can be, and I have the gift of gab.
Yes,
I love
you do.
talking, so
Yes,
sometimes
you do.
it's a challenge for me to do that because I'm so excited, but also realizing not everyone's me. So with that guy, for instance, I think that he's not okay with being a little bit calmer and not needing to fill with absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a very people pleasing term. If you think about it, it's a people pleasing term. Absolutely, I'll do that for you.
Let me lick your shoes.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to frame a question for you from a 23-year-old perspective that has figured out the money game. You figured out the game of money, which so many men think that is going to be the solution to their problems. As soon as I make more money, get enough money, then I'll be able to have the life that I want, attract the woman of their dreams, do the great things, build a brotherhood, all that other stuff. It's constant. You hear from so many guys in the space. They just need to make more money, and that seems to be the solution because so many men are sold the lie that if we produce and we provide, that everything else is done. That's the only real job we need to do as men.
Right.
But the problem with that, in my experience, is hyper-focusing on just production is you're not focusing on the internal, the other areas of life that really develop meaning and purpose. We had a little conversation last night talking about meaning and purpose and really being the center point of a man's life, because if you don't have meaning and purpose as a foundation for your life, then you prioritize all the wrong things, but whether it be profits or the other thing that starts with a P, and that will also turn into a problem. There's a saying that men are motivated by 2 things. One is pink and one is green. Green being the money. And it
wasn't broccoli?
It's not broccoli.
We're motivated by spinach like Popeye?
Yeah, it's not that. The reason why I think so many men struggle at different points in life is they put profits. They put that area of focus as the only thing they should focus on. They don't focus on building their sense of purpose. And I want to ask you this question. It's a long-winded way of getting into the question. As a 23-year-old, what is the next area of focus that you want to derive meaning and purpose from?
I think there's almost even, I would say, a problem with the question itself. And this is the way I think a lot of guys view it, is that I'll get like what we were saying, I'll get the money. And then after I get the money, I'll get the woman. And then after I get the woman, that's when I can do all the personal development. And they view these buckets in life that they're trying to fill, or these cups, as a linear accomplishment. But that's not really how you should view it, because then you'll again develop this like lobster claw syndrome, where it's one big version of it. And I don't think it's really going to make you fulfilled in life. So how I view it is that you have these different areas of life. Think of these cups. So you have your spiritual development, you have your physical development, whether that be your mind, whether that be your body, actually. You have your money, you have your love life, you have your brotherhood and your community of people. You have the things that you're pursuing that bring you happiness, new things, and trying new things. I think that a lot of us also as guys, we just get in the routine and just do the same thing all the time. And you want to have some level of creation of neuroplasticity in your life to just open that up. And then, past that also, like our material world, the things we want, the cars, the clothes, whatever the heck, the like material things, all these things, instead of looking at them in a linear fashion downward, I look at them as almost like a map connected together. And you fill one, and that one also fills all the other ones. And that's a much better way to look at it, because guys will say money's not the answer or money is the answer. Well, it's kind of both, because money isn't the answer if you just focus on money. But money's like a shovel. It's like you can have one shovel and it's $1 and it'll dig a hole for you, but it's kind of hard. But if you have 1,000 shovels and you can hire people to dig the holes for you, then it's pretty easy. So it's just a tool. And I think money makes it easier for you to go do new things. It does create adventure, and women don't want a guy for money. They want a guy for what money creates for them, which is adventure, sense of new, novelty,
safety and security,
all these types of things. Spontaneity and all that type of stuff as well. Because going on vacation randomly, spontaneous, like that's something women want as well.
What was the tripwire for you to master the money game, which you are saying is a catalyst to be able to also fill the cups of all the other lateral games to create depth amongst?
It makes it easier for sure.
For sure. Okay, so what was the tripwire? If you were going to say and focus and give the listeners one area to hyper focus on so that they can develop in, what was the catalyst to becoming better at the money game so that you can fill the other cups?
I really do think that starts from you removing yourself from the equation and focusing more on what do other people need, and focus on how can I build value for those. Because I was starting reading like entrepreneurship books when I was 16, 17, and these guys talked a lot about value creation is directly linked to money creation, and so you need to create value.
What's Zig Ziglar saying? Help enough other people get what they want, you're going to get what you want.
And so that's what I started to look at, is how can I do that? And I tried a lot of different skills and everything, and settled on copywriting because I really liked it and just went all in on that. I think a lot of guys, the way they screw themselves over is they're trying too many things and they're going half-ass. I have an Amazon store, an e-com store, and I'm also building this like coaching business on the side, and I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and all these things. And then you look at it and they've made, like, would you rather go 6 inches in one direction or 1 inch in 6 directions? I'd rather go 6 inches in one direction. Non-sexual. Non-sexual. You know what that means? Yeah. So it's, that to me is the way to view it, is focus on one area, get really good at it, and provide value for that. I don't think every single guy is going to be like me and want to do copywriting. For some guys, they may have figured out a trade like roofing or something.
Can I lead the witness a little bit?
Go, yeah.
Yeah, and you tell me if this is, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Nick, but what I also know about you is you've invested heavily in mentors.
Yeah.
Heavily into masterminds.
Disgusting amounts of money.
And brotherhoods, because you want a time collapse. And so if I was going to say the tripwire, and tell me if this is the case, you've invested in mentorship and brotherhood relationships so that you can learn the skills from other high-value men.
That's the accelerator, for sure. Yeah. It's collapsing time is one way to put it. Time piercing is what my good friend Jesse Elder calls it, and I think it's very accurate. You're just learning from other people. I was even telling you this yesterday at dinner, where there's 2 mentors that I listen to, and I don't really question them because they say we were talking about one guy in particular, and I said I would never work with him in a million years, and Erin was like, why? And I said, I don't need the reason why. My mentor told me he's not a good person. And so what that is my mentor saying, hey, that flower over there is poisonous, don't touch it.
Right.
And I could be, well, he doesn't know what he's talking about, I don't really trust him, let me go and touch the flower myself. And what's happened time and time again is I go and touch the flower, realize it's poisonous, come back to my mentor and be like, hey, by the way, you were right, that flower was poisonous. And instead, like, just listening to them and not needing to go make the mistake, that accelerates the living hell out of everything. So 100%, it absolutely it absolutely is a tripwire to just getting better, surrounding yourself with people who are doing better.
So succinctly put, if you were going to go back in time, and I'm talking to the listeners, and you're 23 years old, maybe 17, you're 30, wherever you are right now, if you want to time collapse and be in the best version of yourself for a future version of yourself, there's going to be a high value man, you might invest in a brotherhood, a community, somewhere where it's going to give you feedback. And I shared with you earlier that I believe there's 5 things that develop a man's value. And most men, Pams, the simps out there, avoid these 5 things because it's just, well, it's not their fault really, but they were trained to avoid these things. But
society,
they avoid conflict. They avoid confrontation, they avoid challenge, they avoid competition, and they avoid community. There's this lone wolf mentality that so many men are suffering in silence.
Here's a new term for you, a new acronym. That's called sigma mailing.
Sigma mailing.
Alpha and beta is a dynamic where there are men on top and there are men on the bottom. Sigma doesn't believe in the hierarchy and does his own thing. So Trump is kind of an example of a sigma. Does not care about anyone's opinion of him at all and just does his own thing.
I think from the outside, but he has business leaders, and there's a lot that we don't see.
Correct. So a lot of these guys, they try and go a sigma route where, well, the game doesn't apply to me, and that's a very great way to lose at the game.
Well, the problem with this, let's look at nature. I love to bring everything back to the laws of nature. You look at the laws of nature, and there's this lone wolf. The lone wolf, it's got this acronym. It's got this belief around it. The lone wolf dies first. The only reason the lone wolf is not part of the pack is he is rabid, he is cancerous, he's sick, and he is dying. He's not fed the way that a pack is fed. He's not protected the way the pack is protected. He's not supported, and he doesn't get to have the pick of the bitches, for lack of a better, it's the truth.
I mean, you're not wrong on the terminology either.
It's absolutely true. So he is literally the sickest, weakest, and least access to resources.
True. Yeah. I think, honestly, business is, and growing financially and all that, it's fairly easy. It really is. And if we just take that as a given constant in life, and that's always going to go up as long as you just do the things, connect with the right people, bring value to those people, and continue to build your ability to bring value to those people.
Add value.
The things that accelerate it, though, and you were asking earlier, what are the things that I'm doing? Being able to, I think, have control of your emotions, being able to not be afraid of confrontation, having really, and I just got done with a networking event before I got here. I saw how much better I showed up in conversations with people because I'm in much better shape. I'm more confident with myself, and people were even commenting on it because they'd seen me before. You show up better as well. Yep. So I would go back if I could and say, stop trying to just fill only this cup, because this cup's going to fill if you just do these things. It's inevitable that it will. You need to fill these other cups. Yeah.
And so we were having a whiteboard session downstairs. We were talking through a couple exciting things coming up, and one of the things that we were talking through is if there's one simple solution for building your value as a man, it's to spend time with other men.
100%.
It's the respect of other men.
Yeah. If we think of this from a primal perspective, so let's go back, and the number's arbitrary, let's say 1,000, 2,000 years back to, I don't even know when we were living in tribes really, but whatever that timeline is for that. There was a couple of men inside of your tribe, and there were a couple of women. And so the man who got the women inside the group, and let's say in dozens, couple dozen and everything like that, the women wanted to partner with the men who were respected the most amongst the men. And so that meant who was the best at hunting, who was the best at who's the leader, like all these guys. That was the alpha. And then again, if we look to nature as well, you think that if you were to go for, let's say, apes, for instance, you go to an ape, there's 10 male apes and 10 female apes. You think it's going to be one-on-one, each one of them has a partner. No, one male ape has all 10 female apes. And then those remaining 9 guys kind of like take care of the children and help, and occasionally they have, like they do cheat
Simping?
And stuff like that. They do some simping. There's some ape simping as well. They do have to cheat because there is that level of moving on with the species, or continuation of the species. So that pattern shows up over and over and over again, that the ones who have the most respect, and in an animal perspective, it's very primal, like who can fuck the other one up the most and who can fight the other one the most. But when it came to the primal, we're in a tribe, it was then who is the man who is the most resourceful and most valuable in that regard.
Bringing the most value. And there's many ways that we can bring value as men, but at the end of the day, you should be bringing your value to the world of men. If there's one area that you should be looking to add value, to contribute to make better, it's the world of respected men.
That's what I would go back and tell younger me. Like if I could go and have a sit down conversation with 18-year-old Nick, I would tell him the only goal you should have is not make money, it's not get laid, it's not get a fast car, it's I want to be respected by high value men. Because if you can get that, everything else comes from it. We focus on byproducts too much in society, and it's just the nature of the society itself. Byproduct, like cars, money, all these things are byproducts of being respected by other men. Yeah,
it's truth. So let's pinpoint this. We talk about going back in time, giving advice to our younger selves, earn the respect of high value men.
Yeah.
Let's say that you are you're suffering with PAM problems. You're the passive aggressive man, and then I was the PAM problem. So when I think about where I was before I identified the enemy, I was insecure. I was afraid. I was people pleasing. I did not want confrontation or challenge. And so I avoided like the alpha type men because I didn't understand them. I was brought up by a strong woman. My mom raised me. I'm an only child. And my father figures were physically, mentally, and emotionally abusive. And so I avoided that conflict in regards to a healthy masculine. And so I didn't know how to do it. Where would you say to start if you were a man looking to solve this one tripwire skill of earning the respect of high-value men? Where would you start if you were like me, suffering with a PAM problem?
Well, it has to start internal. So, I mean, this is where I would go, because you want to surround yourself with stronger men and just better guys in general. I would go to the gym and just go find the biggest guy in there and just start talking to him. And try and, you know, obviously there's some guys who will be very insecure at that point. But what I've seen is a consistent pattern, and I was telling you this at the gym yesterday, those are some of the kindest guys I've met. They're just these big, brute-looking guys, but they're very developed. Because for you to develop yourself to that level in the gym, there's a lot of internal work that has to go into it as well. So I would just go straight to the gym, make it a point to do that, and just, if I had a really passive problem, just, you know, and I knew it was a problem as well, I wouldn't go up to him and be like, hey, I'm a Pam, and I'd like to, can you help me with it? But just show interest in that person and his life and who he is.
Genuine curiosity.
Yeah, and just talk with him and ask him, hey, could we hit a workout together someday? I would really love to work out with you. And if he says,
spot me.
Can you spot me? Or if he says, I do personal training, actually invest in the personal training.
Invest in the personal training,
yes. 100%. Start spending money on your development to get around it. I think that's one thing I figured out at a very young age is you should pay to get into rooms.
Yes.
Because the doors aren't going to open themselves because you're nothing special. So you need to have it where you're paying to get in the rooms, and then you'll be around the right people.
I love that. So step one, build your body.
Build your body. Yeah, do that, because that then creates how you view yourself and then how people view you. And when you look in the mirror, like, this is a new experience for me, looking in the mirror and being like, hello. I'm like, what's going on, you handsome devil?
Nick got a sick pump in the gym, and he's like, oh my God, I haven't seen veins in that spot before.
I've never seen veins. Like, I had it where they were showing up, you call them spider veins.
Spider
veins right there, and then neck veins too. I was like, whoa, I've never seen that. Yeah, all over. So it was cool. I'd never really gotten to that point. So I think that's the first step. Get there, because you'll start to respect yourself more, because you're building trust with yourself that I can commit to something. I said this earlier as well, where it was, you know, the reason why we stop habits, any form of inconsistency, is really just you not respecting yourself enough. It's you lying to yourself when you say you're going to start a program and then you don't actually continue the program, or you don't finish it. So then you're lying to yourself. You don't respect people that you lied to, and then the people that lie to you, you don't respect them as well. So it's this self-fulfilling prophecy that just makes it so you're not a respectable person. And it's an internal thing that people will run away from and numb themselves from. But yeah, step one, get consistent in the gym. Really focus on building your body. Like, let's say you don't even have the money thing figured out at all. I would then say step two, or really it's like step one and step two are paired together, is figure out the money thing. It is not hard. I don't care what anyone says. I've coached a lot of people on being able to start making businesses online. There are people who make excuses, and then there's people that GSD and just get shit done. And it was something very interesting that I noticed inside of programs that I was coaching people on how to like start agencies or how to start online businesses, trading their time and their information and a skill for money. it was always the immigrant people that crushed, and the American people fucking sucked. And Bedros talks about this as well, and I saw this in my own family. The immigrant mentality is GSD. By any means
Get
necessary
shit done.
Just
Yeah.
GSD. Get it done. So have that work ethic. And you know what? People are like, well, my health and this and that, my mental health. You can't have it all.
No.
You know, for maybe a year or so, you need to really push yourself outside your comfort zone. You need to not be getting as much sleep, and you need to really be focusing on pushing outside of it. And then you can have that privilege. I really think that mental health is a privilege, to be honest. You
Interesting perspective.
you should get that once you've actually pushed outside of it. And people always say this stupid shit, my trauma. My parents beat the crap out of me. Like, my mom beat the crap out of me. My dad would smack me around as well. My dad was more verbally abusive than he was physically. My mom was more physically abusive and verbally abusive. And I remember when I did one session with the therapist and then realized I don't want to do this because I don't like the things that he's telling me to tell myself. I took a test for trauma, and it came out, and it was like, on a scale of 1 to 16, I was like a 14 for trauma I experienced.
You're fucked up.
I'm fucked up, basically. And I was like, but I love my trauma. My trauma turned me into who I am today. And being okay with trauma, it just means you're okay with stress. And I don't want to sit here and create a victim mentality. So I think if you have that mentality of I'm going to be proactive, I'm not going to be a victim, I'm going to take control of my health, and I'm going to take control over my finances. If you figure out those two things, the end goal, which is really what a lot of guys is, they want to, we want to get some poon. Like, we want to be able to get with some pretty ladies. We want to be able to get a relationship. We want to be able to have kids. We want to be able to impact. Those are all byproducts of that, because guys respect those two things. Those are the two ways you build respect for men. You have your financial life together, and you're able to be impressive in terms of the value you create for other men. You then also have your physical health together as well. And then also, I would say, if we're talking about building things, building your mind as well, consuming positive things that help you grow. I think the guys like Napoleon Hill, Earl Nightingale, Charles Hannell, the guy that did Feeling is the Secret, Neville Goddard, all these types of guys. How's it?
JC.
JC?
Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ as well. Yes, Jesus Christ, Buddha, Allah, like all these different archetypes of the same like source energy. Consume this type of stuff and just grow yourself. I think a lot of guys are like, they're in a low value state, and then they're looking for this is coming from a guy who's sold a lot of dating products for people, is they want to look for some line or some special hack or some sort of technique that'll get them girls. And
Geeks with techniques.
that's great. I've never heard that before.
I borrowed that from Dr. Glover. He talks about, Dr. Glover wrote the book No More Mr. Nice Guy.
It's a great one.
And he talks about, in becoming he calls it the integrated male. And it's very similar to the high value man. But becoming a wholehearted man, you have to be able to break free of this idea that there's some special line that's going to get you to get the girl. No, it's about building a great life. Building a life that's truly valuable, where you attract to you the high value woman, the high value life, and the high value relationships. And the way that you do that is stop trying to focus on the one little technique. Otherwise, you're just a geek with a technique.
Can we get kind of woo-woo with it? We would agree that everything in this world carries a frequency. Those things are high-frequency things. What we're talking about, a very developed body, a very developed bank account, a very developed mind, respect from other men, respect for yourself, understanding of women, respect emotionally, understanding all these different components. These are all high-frequency activities. High vibes.
Yep.
The inverse is low frequency.
Correct.
Women are more intuitive with spiritual, the world, woo-woo than men tenfold.
True.
So they can sense it.
Guys, we know this. Anytime they have this intuition, they can smell when we've done something out of character. Like, there's no lying to your woman. There's no lying to your mom when you were growing up. Like, you knew the woman's sixth sense. It is also what evolutionary has protected them.
They have to.
They have to. And
well, we complain about women being emotional, but that's just what they are.
So many guys, I think, struggle with attracting their woman while participating in low vibe behavior. Low vibe behavior is the techniques. It's the porn. It's the masturbation. It's the not self-respecting themselves. It's not taking care of their body. It's the this vibrational anger, frustration, irritation because they're not getting their needs met. The Pam problem. They're passive with what they really want, and then they are aggressive with self-sabotage and
100%.
vices, but also aggressive when the woman turns them down. And I have heard from so many ladies that they just immediately flip the switch. The nice guy, and then it's the victim vomit after. As soon as she says, no, I'm not interested. My girl, Rachel, she gets approached quite often And before, less often now that she's in a relationship. But she was getting approached, and then as soon as she said, I'm not interested, I'm dating somebody, she would get this text vomit from these guys about how she is shallow or not interested, or there's something wrong with
Really?
her. And it's this,
Wow.
passive aggressive behavior.
I just leave I'm like, all the best. I say all the best and
Yeah.
just leave it.
But I think a lot of women experience this. They
Wow.
experience the vomiting from men that are passive, like truly, truly passive.
Yeah, that's interesting. I do think technique is helpful. Like, I'm not going to say that, but again, it's setting the wrong goal. Like, you're trying to
Yeah, but you
focus on
can't.
that.
What do they say? You can't polish a turd.
Yeah, there we go. It's
Yeah.
exactly that. If you have all of those things, like, because there's NBA athletes and NFL athletes who are all that. They have money, they're successful, they're respected, they have fame and all that. And the only reason they get laid is because of that. And so when it comes to, I've heard this so many times where girls will show me DMs of famous athletes, and they're like, this is how he slid into my DMs. And it's just shit game. Like, you don't even know how to talk to a woman. I started to figure this out just from charm and how to be charming
Yes.
as an individual.
I think charm is a skill set that needs to be learned by all high value men, because it goes over not only just dating.
Yeah.
Charm goes into business and salesmanship and the ability to navigate and network, which is important skill sets, but it doesn't have to be isolated just around women.
Yeah, I mean, watch comedians. Watch charming, funny, witty comedians. And you know what's really good as well is there's a great YouTube channel, Charisma on Command. Fantastic YouTube channel. Go watch some of the stuff with him breaking down like Robert Downey Jr. and these types of guys. I think these are all learned skills. You can learn them
100%.
from just observing these guys and seeing how they do it. One of the things that I started to implement as well was a little bit more reservedness in conversation. It worked very well for me this past couple of days. I was at an event. I won't go into too many details, but let's just say it worked very well with a lovely lady where I was watching. You ever seen the movie Drive with Ryan Gosling?
No.
Amazing movie. Can't recommend it enough. But there's this stare my buddy was telling me. He's like, this is what you need to get good at. Dude, figure out the stare. And Gosling has this thing where he's just staring at this girl.
Give the camera the stare.
Like that. It's just, you're just looking at the woman. And it's these like, I'm hungry eyes kind of that you're giving her.
Ravenous.
Yes. And I was kind of intentional in this moment with this girl. I pulled her away from the event and we were talking back and forth and giving her kind of that stare. And it wasn't even conscious of like, I'm going to do the stare now. That's autistic. Like it's just that I made that like a point, just be a little more reserved in it. And you can feel her start to get a little tingly, a little bite to the lip and stuff.
It's a tool and a technique deployed on top of a foundation of a
100%.
good life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you've built a life, though.
Yeah.
There's a metaphor that I've shared in a former episode, and it's talking about the woman is the icing on a cake. It's just the icing. Your purpose as a man is to create a 3-layer cake. Your 3-layer cake is your purpose, your passion, and your play. Bottom layer is your purpose. Figure out what is your meaning, why you're here on this planet. What is your passion? What excites you? What could you talk about? What do you want to change the world with? What is truly the thing that drives you? And what is the area of your life that you feel like you can play? Play is important. Play is an important part of a man, because if you are rigid and you don't want to play, like, you're not going to keep women around very long. The woman comes along and she's the icing on top of the cake, but you need the cake first.
The play was a big thing for me to start to figure out, because as guys, maybe our form of play is a little bit different than a woman's. Like, my form of play is I want to sit down and watch a documentary about Marcus Aurelius and like really enjoy that. But to be with a girl and be like, you want to watch? They're like, no, I would like to go out and go do something.
Yeah.
So I had to get my own metaphorical stick out of my butt and stop being so rigid. A saying I heard once is that love is giving yourself to someone in consideration of that other person as well. So for me, I am me, and to put history documentaries on a girl is not fair. But to realize, like, for instance, this girl, she really likes just music festivals and stuff like that. I'm personally not a huge fan of it, but to make it so, if you'd like to go have a good time, I'd love to accompany you that and spend that time with you there. Now, there's levels where I would be like, I'm truly not interested. There's certain things where I'm just like, I'm not going to do it. And I can't think of an example, but there has to be boundaries. It's, I think, really about not being so rigid as well, because I think as men, we like tense up and just hold all this tension, and women can sense that and they don't like that. It doesn't seem fun, really.
Yeah.
And,
Or you know, I think one of the worst struggles I hear from so many guys too is they've attracted a woman. They're on first date number 1, date number 2, date number 3. You know, things are going well, and then she loses interest. She loses interest because they have ran out of all the techniques. They are fresh out of the charm. They have not developed their purpose, their great life. And so they lose her. They lose her. And then as soon as that feeling of loss starts happening, this is when they get clingy and needy and latch on. And it is one of the fastest ways to push that woman away. And this circles back to the foundation of what we need as men. We need to figure our priorities and our purpose first and foremost. Otherwise, we make the relationship that priority. And that is the fastest way to lose respect.
There's a really good, I think, saying and metaphor or story I got from church once that I really liked. And it was, the question was, what are you building on? So Jesus was talking about how in Jerusalem you could build your house by the bed of water, and it was a lot easier to do it at the bank because, you know, you didn't have to carry the stuff all the way up a hill or anything like that. It was just easy, and you could build it right there, and you're building on sand. Or you could go to the rocks and build it on rocks, but that was a lot more difficult. So you had a better foundation there. But what would happen is when the difficulties of life would come, a storm, a flood, whatever it is, the people who built their house at the sand lost their house and had to start over again. Whereas the people who built it on the solid foundation were okay. And I think that is a really good metaphor as well for when you're trying to build. If the foundation is built on, I really just want to get pussy, very weak foundation. It should be that I want to experience life as a high value man.
Yes.
I want to be that out of respect for me and my vessel and the fact that I have one time on this earth. Why would I disrespect myself by being a fucking simp or by being a beta or by doing that type of shit? You know, that's
the truth of the matter, you're going to live a much more fulfilled life when you fulfill your purpose in this life. And we were talking about this. We were going down the faith conversation, and I believe very strongly that our purpose is imprinted on us. It is something, a divine stamp that God gives us, and only God truly knows our purpose, and it is our responsibility to build a relationship with the higher power, with God, so that we can live our purpose. And that is really the main reason I believe men are struggling so much. They're struggling because they're not developing that relationship with their purpose, with their higher power, and then they're trying to...
Yeah, we did say that yesterday. I said, well, what would you say to a guy that's like, well, I don't know what my purpose is. Like, you need to create a relationship with God. Yeah, I think that's very accurate. I did not really get a good sense of my purpose until I created a relationship with God. Yes. Because then you can start to get those downloads, as we call it. Those downloads that are telling you, hey, you're made for bigger things.
Yes.
You're made for this. You're made for that. I think just
and
really...
those whispers, I think, are what draws us out of the vices that prevent us from living our best life. That simping behavior where we're begging for scraps. And yeah, I love the word simp, right? Because I can just picture like this, like Ren and Stimpy little man, like holding a handbag around. But this simping behavior, and it's not even just women, but simping in the workplace, simping around other high value
it does
men.
It does apply just to women, but sure. I mean, we can broaden it out.
But if you think about it, it's begging for scraps, right?
Yeah.
It's begging for scraps in any capacity. And so I'm going to broaden the definition. I just learned about the definition, but.
This is what's really fun about having like a connection with a guy who's like, you're 38 or 39?
38, yeah.
38. It's like the vocabulary that I have. You're like, I didn't know that was a thing at all, but I know the behavior. I know what it is, but I have the terms and everything.
Yeah. If you're not getting the whispers from God about who you're supposed to be, you're going to listen to these negative self-beliefs, this toxic thought, society telling you you're not good enough, you're not worthy, that masculinity is toxic, that you don't actually need it, that women are this, the red pill, blue pill, black. I don't even know any of that stuff, but I know that there is this great misconception out there as to men that are struggling in the dating sphere because they're just being fed this misinformation.
Yes. Here's the next part of that, though, is that on top of that, what you're going to do is you're going to take, as we said earlier, take your umbilical cord and just attach it to another man.
Yes.
That's a lot of times what happens is I'm not good enough, so I want this person to do my thinking for me. This is a core principle that I live my life by. There's nothing wrong with you. You're just thinking the wrong thoughts and taking the wrong actions. If I go, and this is my proof for this theory, is that if you go and look up the MK Ultra experiments, this is the government, kind of a fucked up part of the government. You can read all about this. They've declassified a lot of it. it was the testing of psychedelics, because this is when acid got very, very popular in the United States, and they wanted to see, okay, what just happens if we just throw like a ridiculous dose at someone? Charles Manson, all these different guys that were the psychopaths of society, the Unabomber as well. Those guys were both experiments of the MK Ultra experiments, or part of it, I guess. What they were able to figure out is that there's a big enough dose of this stuff where you can wipe someone's slate clean and install programming into them to then make them someone else. There were people who would believe, and this is hypnosis as well, believe that they are an old Russian man when they are they've never even spent a day in Russia, and they would 100% believe it and act that out. Or believe that you're a psychopath, or believe that it's your duty. Okay, let's not get into conspiracy theory.
So high level. Let's bring it back down to the ground.
Core level. Yeah.
People have some broken programming that are running their lives, and so what you're saying is that there's nothing wrong with you.
There's nothing wrong with you. Yeah, I was about to go really conspiracy theory.
You have programming.
Yeah, I'll get there with it. You have this programming. It's that you are programming yourself with these beliefs. So if that's the case, that we are a blank slate and then the programming changes who we are, you then need to go and create a blanker slate for yourself, and you need to go and you need to actually redo your programming. Because when you believe it's like, oh, I'm just fucked up, well, okay, well, fuck me, then what?
You're going to manifest that.
100%.
You're going to self-sabotage, upper limit. You're going to burn the ships down. You're going to get the girl, and then you're going to ruin the relationship, build the business. Your bank account's going to get to a certain point, and you're going to set it on fire. You're going to gamble. You're going to do all your vices. You're going to stop stacking victories, all of it.
So it's the high value conversation?
High value man conversation.
Did I come up with a name for that?
I think you did.
Yeah, over the phone.
HVMC.
Yeah, I was like on there. You're like, oh, I love that. And then a week later, I saw that, and I was like, at least someone like does what I say. I can't even tell you how many times people ask me for advice and then do nothing with it, and then 6 months later come back for advice, and I'm like, still the same thing. Nothing's changed at all. Like now you have a 6 month delay on it. Yeah.
We got to listen to those that have the areas of expertise that we want to grow in, and I think that's one of the greatest things that we can do as men, is to realize that we're learning at every single chapter of our life. And so there's 15 years between us in age, and I gotta say, I learned so much from this young man, because he is exemplifying so many behaviors and attributes and skills, and asking the right questions and doing the things and leaning into mentors and really trying to learn about what it means to be a man. And I think more people need to make that a priority in their life. More men need to make that a priority, because the problem is, if you don't, you end up living accidentally.
Yes.
Accidentally. You live out the program that was taught to you by beta, passive men, passed down through generations, this fear indoctrination, and no one breaks free. And then you end up wondering why your wife leaves you and fucks the mailman, your kids don't respect you, your business is broke, your body is broke, and you don't know why. And you're struggling, suffering in silence, and white-knuckling it through life.
Yeah. I have a story that's kind of related to this. I think it's kind of funny. I just remembered it in the middle of you saying that. So my main mentor, his name's Ron Lynch. He is the guy behind OxyClean, GoPro, Sonicare toothbrush, like all these insane brands. He's done $4 billion in infomercials for companies. Like he's a savage at marketing. And he hosted something called Film Camp. And what it was, I'm going to teach you guys how we make an infomercial and how to film things. And it really helped me understand the production process. And I got a really good 4 or 5 day crash course on production. And it's like a college education almost at that point. So it was on the last day, and it was after all of our performances, and we literally made commercials while we were there as well. And he was critiquing everyone and saying, like, Andy, you'd be a really good executive producer, and da-da-da-da, here's why. Trish, you'd be really good at this, and you'd be a really good line producer, and da-da-da, and you'd be a really good director, Chelsea, and da-da-da, and all that. And I'm, like, so excited. I'm like, what would I be, Ron? You know, and he gets to me, and he goes, Nick, here's the thing. And I was like, he goes, you are so fucking hard-headed. You are so hard-headed. But you listen to only me. And that's the thing, is you listen to your mentors. I will tell you something's wrong, and the time that you take to correct your behaviors is the shortest time I've seen for a lot of people. You instantly just go, okay, I'm wrong, and then accept it. But you need to learn how to take that from other people as well. You need to learn how to do that. And so I was like, okay. But then I didn't know what my position was. So then later that night, we're all back at the house, And I sat him down and I said, Ron, you didn't tell me what my position was. And he's like, I didn't want to say it in front of everyone else because then it puts you in a position of authority and your fucking head's going to go through the roof on it. But you are not the executive producer. You're not the director. You are the producer. You're the one bankrolling the whole thing and telling people what to do. And you're more so like in the back, like buying your little shit coins, your crypto, and just handling that. And he said, but I don't want to put you in that position right there where then everyone's like, what the heck, Ron? I know that's who you are because you're me. Well, that's what I did. Oh. And so it was a really beautiful moment for me to see that. And I understood what he was saying, though, is the reason why I gave you that piece of feedback is you can't be the producer if you're not a good leader, and you are an awful leader because you can't take feedback from others. You only take feedback from people you respect, and Nick, the best feedback you will get is sometimes from not the main guy. It's going to be from your runner, the person who's just running around. Yeah, just how are you showing up? And if someone tells you, hey, I really, I didn't like that, and then you're like, well, psh, you're a wagey, as you say or whatever, and just disrespect that person. You're a low-level person. That person could have given you the best feedback you got all week, but you just disrespected them because you're in a higher income status or something like that. So it doesn't apply there. And I think you have to be able to be willing to take feedback. And that's that confrontation side of it, one of the C's. You have to be willing to take that and not be so closed off that, well, I've got muscles and he doesn't, so he's a beta and I'm an alpha. Well, but he's got way more money than you do. And that's one thing I respect about our relationship is like you listen to me on marketing stuff and you don't even question it really. You're just kind of like, yeah, that makes sense. And then you just do it. Whereas I've had guys who they're older and because I'm younger, they try and just figure out a way for it to be wrong. And I'm like, dude, like I've made 25 million for clients. They've listened to what I've done. You can go and you can do it your own way. But why did you come to me in the first place and ask me for advice? It's like a weird thing. They find the need to like assert their authority. That's a passive thing as well. Yeah. On there. But yeah, and then when it comes to fitness and manhood and all these different things and masculinity, like I go to you for that, and I'm just like, what's your thoughts on this?
The truth of the matter is, and someone shared this visual with me, and I don't remember who it was, and so if you're listening, you can take credit for this, but we're all connected to the same chain, and the chain is a linear chain. We're just at different points along the chain. Yeah, we're all part of the same chain. There is no hierarchy. There is no higher or lower. We're not at different points of development. We're just at different points in time. And if you realize that we're all in this connected chain, we can grab information from people that are side by side with us. And this is really, I think, the fastest way to time collapse. But also to realize that you should not take advice from anybody that you don't want to take advice from. And so if there's someone that has something that you want, the body, the business, the bank account, the relationship, the authority, the communication style, the marketing, the copy skills, whatever the skill is, the age doesn't necessarily matter because the knowledge is the knowledge. The wisdom comes with time. We were talking about this. 100%. I think the wisdom really comes with time, but the knowledge is the knowledge, and you can run it through your own filter.
Well, I just got done at Copy Accelerator, which was an event filled with copywriters and business owners, and the question I get a lot from people is usually like, how did you figure this out so quickly at 23? This is insane. And I'm like, it's not the age. Since the age of 18 or 19, I obsessively studied this.
Reps and sets.
And intensity as well. I mean, for a very long time, I didn't, and this is why I say I think mental health is a privilege. For a very long time, I didn't leave the house. I didn't have girlfriends. I didn't have anything like that. I didn't have a social life. All I did was work. If I could go back, I would tell myself to live a little bit, but still focus on the intensity because that's what's going to accelerate it. But I really do think that there's that level of obsession that does get you the result. And, you know, it has nothing to do with age at all. I think that a lot of it has to do with the fact that I've just done it more. Like, muscles are the pure fact of it. It's that, like, Erin has worked his arms out longer for an extra 15 years or so than me. So it's like Erin's arms are more developed than mine. My copy chops are more developed because I've just written more sales letters. And that's also another thing. This really pisses me off. People ask me, how do I get good at copywriting? How often are you writing copy? Well, I just really want to know, what book do I start with? Why? Like, you already know. You
just do the thing.
Just do it. Just write. How often do you write? And then copywriters are then people who are writing copy. How do I get better at writing? How often are you writing outside of projects, outside of copywriting projects? How often do you write for yourself? How often do you write about emotional things? How often do you write poetry? How often do you do these types of things? Because you're trying to figure out how to be more creative. So I think it's from Jocko, and he has such a good point with this, where he says, how do I do the thing? How do I get up early and hit the gym? And he says, get up early and hit the gym. How do I stop eating sugar? stop eating sugar. It really can be that easy. Now, well, what we do to make it so we can do that is just setting up systems, setting up heuristics for ourselves, being able to set up accountability partners, being able to join a group of guys who will be able to like help them on that journey as well, to hold them accountable to it. It's very powerful. One of the things that I got a group of 6 guys together that I'm going to help kind of transform their body and their mind over the next probably about 12 weeks, 90 days on it. And one of the things I had them do, and this was solid, was that I had them first text 3 people that they're starting this journey and that this is what they're going to do. Social pressure. And then on top of that, I told them then afterwards, send me those 3 people's numbers. And if you fall off of the program, you bet your ass I'm texting all 3 of those people, and then I'm apologizing to them on your behalf and saying, I'm sorry that this person let you down, is okay with showing up like shit for you. And every single one of them is so charged up for it.
Competition.
Yep.
Competition and challenge. That is a necessary element to become a better man.
I had that in my screening, so I had probably about 20 to 25 guys hit me up wanting to do it, and I only took in 6. Also, I didn't want to have way too many in there. But a lot of them, when I asked them that question, are you cool with that? That you give me the 3 numbers and you do that? A lot of them were like, I don't know, like that seems like aggressive, and all that. Like, this is why you're going to stay stuck as you. One guy really, this is the funniest thing, is I told him we're going to have a gym routine for you, and you're going to need to be at a commercial gym because you need equipment. Well, you know, that's good for the other guys. I think I could just do a workout program with like the weights or the rings I have at home, like the Olympic rings and a punching bag.
So you want to do it your way?
Yes. Yeah. And I was like, has that worked for you yet? And he said no. And I said, okay, so we're going to do it a commercial gym style because you're going to be able to get more of your body worked out. I just don't think this is for me, man. Okay, all the best.
Bye.
I don't... That was a Pam thing as well. You want to do that, and then you want to do it your way, and then you're so closed off to other ways.
Or the alternative, too, is you see that as a potential client, it doesn't fully align with your values, or a potential suitor or woman, and you try to say, yes, you know what, I'll make that work for you. We'll make this ring thing work for you. I'll sell you whatever you want. I'll change who I am and change my program, my ideals, and my values to bring you in because I'm begging for scraps.
I saw this at that event I was at. They're simping. There was this girl I was talking to, and I just saw that she was the more I started talking to her and the more I got to know her through conversation, she was very closed off and had a very closed off world vision, and that's not attractive to me. And so the second I started to see that, and I saw she wasn't even open to expanding her mind at all towards topics that I really enjoy, like psychedelics, and not even asking me then, why do you enjoy that? You know, just, no, I don't do that. That's stupid. I don't even care about that or anything. It just immediately I was like, would I really get along with this person? Would I really be able to create a deep, intimate connection with them? Probably not. So could I somehow figure out how to get sex from this girl with the right, charm and wisdom, technique and all that? Sure. But I mean, I've done that enough times to realize that leads to a spiritual void. So I don't do that. And then I set that intention. I don't want to do that. So I kind of separated myself from her. And then there's a happy ending to that I won't go into too much detail.
God blessed you with something more aligned values.
Yes.
Okay.
God said, see, there we go. And there was a celebration at the end.
I love this. Nick, tell me something.
Yeah.
As a high-value man in the making, where do you see yourself in the next 10 years?
Man, I got the vision. So there's a certain physique that I want. This is a cool hack as well. Find the guy who has the physique that you want, and then just ask him, how'd you do it? Because if you go the other route and you're just like kind of taking advice from everyone, that doesn't apply. So I found the guy whose physique I want. I visualize, it's weird, but I mean, it's just what it is. I visualize that physique, my face, and my body on it. I visualize that. I want to be in a very loving, committed relationship with someone. I either want to have kids or I want to be starting to have kids because I can wait a little bit longer. I'm not a woman. I don't have a ticking time clock or anything like that. I can wait until I'm in my 30s to have kids. Business as well. I want to be doing my own things. I want to be working with awesome people. I want to continue to be working in just really cool scenarios financially, more money than I know what to do with, and to the point where I really want to figure out how do I give more of it back and put it towards things that help people. Community. I want to have a community in 3 different cities, my hometown. I really want to move to Austin, Texas, and so that's going to be kind of the goal for the next 6 months, is setting myself up to be able to do a really comfortable move there and get a really nice spot out there. Austin and then Miami. Those are my 3 favorite cities in all the country. I don't need to go to like Lincoln.
Austin, Miami, and where else?
Austin, Miami, and Scottsdale, like Arizona, Phoenix area, because that's where home is for me. Network and community in all 3 of these cities, to the point where whenever I visit, I never have to have dinner alone. If I want to, I can always invite people, and there's enough people that I can get people to the dinners. And then I think outside of that is just hobbies, passion, projects, things that are just like fun and new things, and become almost like that Renaissance man where you know a lot about a lot and can provide that to someone. So the vision is just a better, accelerated, more just developed version of Nick. And that's it. I visualize it all the time. And this is something that when I was in Austin, I was working with this guy, Jesse Elder. He had a really good point. Guys, we don't really have to force ourselves to think about sex. It just happens.
This is true.
It just happens. Your vision should be no different. You shouldn't have to force yourself to think about it. It should be so attractive that you think about it all the time. And that's really what I've seen even after that. I wake up in the morning, I'm thinking about it. We were at breakfast, I was thinking about it. We're driving home, I'm thinking about it. I spent some time by myself later today, I was thinking about it. It always comes to me. So that vision, I think about it all the time. I'm in love with it, and I love adding all the little details. Also, he has a lot of cattle. That's the other thing. Cattle. I'm serious.
That was the curveball. I didn't see the cattle.
That's part of the vision. He owns a lot of cattle.
I love it.
It's like one of the best investments in the world.
Okay.
Yeah, so he owns a shit ton of cattle.
I love that. So what you said, I want to repeat this back, and I did not lead the witness with this, but one of the things we do in the High Value Man Accelerator, primary first step number one, is to define the vision, define and refine, because without a blueprint of where you're going, you're going to live accidentally. And so what you're saying that is going to be your guide for the next 10 years is a clear and compelling vision for your life.
Yeah, you have to have it, because if you don't have a vision, you just kind of coast. You just bumble around and you don't really...
Accidental living.
Yes. And so you want to live intentionally. And the vision then also creates a judge for you where it's like, hey, this girl doesn't really line up with my vision, so I don't really think this makes sense. Or, hey, this business goal doesn't really line up with my vision, or this whatever. So it creates a really good judge for you. So, yeah, you need to have a vision. I've done it without, and life gets really boring without it.
Because what are you working towards?
Yeah, you just, there's only so many movies you can watch.
Yes.
That's how I look at it.
And you think about this, too. One of the best movies you could watch is looking back in the rearview mirror, looking back at the life that you lived and saying, damn, this is a damn good movie. I was the hero. I was the main star. I was motherfucking Batman, not Robin. I fucking drove that car. I didn't sit in the passenger seat. That's what life's all about.
Yes.
Setting those powerful vision, those values, living by them, and then stacking the victories along the way. I love it. High Value Man in the Making. Where can we find you, Mr. Nick Verge?
On Instagram at The Man of Meaning.
And you've got a Substack.
Yeah, so Substack's a really cool platform. It is like a blog newsletter. So you can go on there and subscribe, and every single day I send out a post. And it changes from very deep esoteric posts where I'm expanding on like what is consciousness, and then other posts where it's, me expanding on a story that happened. I had a really good one about the project where I wrote about my experience with the project. And then other ones are just like, today I wrote about business, and here's like kind of what me and Erin are doing together. And I vary it, but one thing that people have told me is that it's like the favorite part of their day. They go and take a little bathroom break, and they get to read my email, and they just like it because it's always interesting. But the Substack is a great way. And then anywhere on like Twitter, everything is the same at The Man of Meaning. And Facebook as well, just Nick Verge, if you want to find me on there.
Mr. Nick Verge, thank you so much. You are a high value man. I appreciate this conversation. And guys, do me a favor. If you enjoyed this episode, this conversation with a young man, a high value man in the making, do us a favor. Do me a favor. Do Nick a favor. Send us a like. Leave us a comment. Share it. Tag it. Subscribe to it. And also tag another high value man that you know that might need to hear this conversation to be able to level up. Hit those 5
Another high value man in the making.
Another high value man in the making. Because here's the thing: if we can really start impacting and mentoring the youth, our 20-year-olds, our 17-year-olds, our kids, our future men, the world's going to be a better place. And so men in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, recognize and realize right now it is your responsibility, it is your right, it is your greatest opportunity in life to be the lighthouse and to guide younger men to the path.
Yeah.
Guide them to the path of purpose, away from the distractions, the sedation, the vices, all the things holding us down, holding us back. And start connecting with the youth, people that are decades younger from us, because they are the ones that are going to be in charge of our future. They're the ones going to help imprint our kids and help make the world a better place.
I'll 2.0 that and just kind of increase the intensity on it, is that we are literally at war right now. And there's a war for masculinity, and it starts with the youth. And to ignore the youth is such an irresponsible thing to do. If you have cousins, if you have nephews, if you have younger brothers, if you just have younger guys that you know,
Mentor them.
mentor them.
It will make you a better man.
And even just like this is one example of it. Send them this and be like, hey, I really think you should listen to this. Because the more I talk with these guys at the gym, my gym is filled with these like 17-year-olds and 16-year-olds. And they'll talk to me and I'll give them a little taste of like kind of the thoughts I'm thinking. They are starving for this. If you look at guys like Jordan Peterson, there's a reason why I think 60% of his viewership is guys from 17 to 25, all male as
They're
well.
looking for the father figure.
Yep. So, you can take it as, whatever, they're fucked, Gen Z is fucked, or millennials are fucked, or whatever.
Or you can do something about it and stop being a passive-aggressive man.
Either fight the war or sit on the sidelines.
Boom.
There you go.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Much
Thank
love,
you.
many blessings.
Alrighty. Boom.